It's, yeah, that's who's needed to actually see that. That was much fun. So, you got congratulations. How money does that make?
Visual cats.
Your porch cats? Well, there's some kind of monsters. He's not, you look familiar. Yeah. Okay, very cool, awesome, okay.
She's busy. Yeah, that's the first year that's she's really
Like I have. No.
Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me? Yes. Thank you all so much for being here today. My name is Jasmine Jobe. I'm the editorial assistant for the Encyclopedia of Arkansas, and I'm also a programmer at CALS. So I'd like to welcome you to Legacies Lunch, Memory and Memoir in Arkansas. So this monthly program is currently being held here at the UA Little Rock downtown space. So we say big thank you to Marta and Carly for helping us out here. And we are featuring talks on Arkansas related topics. So if you're joining us in person and parked in the library parking garage, be sure to stop by the table at the front to get a sticker and validate your parking. We also have complimentary cookies and drinks at the table if you didn't see them on your way in. So be sure to grab some of those goodies as well. And I would also like to remind you at this time to please make sure your cell phones are on silent or do not disturb. So let's see. So I also want to tell you about Second Friday Art Night. I'd like to invite you to join us downtown this Friday, August 8th from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the CALS Rocket Lab at 120 River Market. If you're not sure which one it is, it's the orange triangle shaped building. We used to call it Cox Creative Center. So this month we are featuring dedicated visual art studio and gallery with a free screen printing. Just bring your own cotton t-shirt or canvas tote, and plain shirts to screen print will also be available for purchase. Habitat for Humanity and MacArthur Park Group will be on hand to share their efforts toward improving our vibrant community, and tons of Arkansas artists will be selling their creations. So you'll get to listen to some totally awesome songs from the 80s cover bands, the Emulators, while you enjoy light refreshments and libations. And we also have Second Friday Knit Night, which is part of TFAN. So bring your work in progress and hang out for an evening of social knitting, or if you don't know how to knit, we'll teach you, and supplies are provided. Okay, so today is a very special event for me. We have come together today to hear from 3 Arkansas writers. They are Nancy Keith, Georgia Manning Lewis, and LeAynne Snell. And they have each written or are writing memoirs through the CALS Writing Circle program. So today we're going to celebrate the power of memory in contributing to our understanding of Arkansas's history. These writers will share brief readings from their memoir projects, offering glimpses into lives shaped by place, memory, and identity. After the readings, we'll open the floor for an audience Q&A. And if you have questions and are joining us via Zoom, please put your questions in the chat and we will alternate in-person and virtual questions during the Q&A. Please join me in welcoming our writers. So today's first reader will be LeAynne Snell. LeAynne started journaling as a young girl and never stopped. Now retired after a career as a psychotherapist, she writes her memoirs, intimate, introspective, and conversational stories that invite readers to experience life alongside her. She's been married to her college sweetheart for over 50 years, and they live in the Ozark Mountains of Northwest Arkansas, as does their son. In addition to writing, she's passionate about playing bridge and ukulele. Today, she'll be reading from her short nonfiction piece, Treasure from the Ditch, from our first Pals Writing Circle anthology. Please welcome LeAynne Snell.
Hi there. Had a little trouble getting here, but here I am. The story is called Treasure from the Ditch. It's a memoir piece. As though walking a tightrope, I held my arms out and wobbled across the narrow plank laid across the stagnant, smelly ditch. The water below me rippled and a large rodent scurried beneath the board and I almost fell off. It was fall 1973 and I'd recently met Tim at LSU in Baton Rouge, where we both were sophomores. He told me he'd bought a house a few miles from school, directly across from the Mississippi River levee, because he didn't want to throw money away in a dorm room. Needs work, but I got a good deal on it, he said. Valuing frugality, I was intrigued. But it was his invitation, do you want to come over for dinner, that had me crossing the ditch in front of his home and then noticing that he was watching me from the porch. Butterflies of infatuation fluttered in my stomach as I climbed decrepit wooden steps to join him. The savory aroma of red beans poured out as Tim opened the front door and led me through a dingy living room to the adjoining kitchen, where the faded linoleum floor had holes in places where it curled up. He motioned for me to sit in a hard metal chair, pulled up to a scavenged wooden spool that once held cable. I got the onions from the ditch, he said, wearing a big smile as he spooned a heap of beans and rice into my bowl, the drainage ditch on the side of the road. Shuddering, I pictured the murky water I'd crossed and how the ditch wrapped around the side of his ramshackle dwelling, where it looked even worse and stunk like rotten eggs. I questioned the wisdom of eating his beans, but from the moment I'd met him, I was inexplicably smitten. So I took a bite. It was exquisite, best I'd ever eaten. When I asked for more, he was glad to oblige. He didn't have a refrigerator for leftovers. The following spring, I moved in, and a year later, we married. Together, we redid the kitchen floor, painted the living room with cheap white paint and colorized it with purple ink, bought an avocado green refrigerator. However, since I have no interest in cooking, Tim did it all. And that meant eating his various finds, catches, and experiments. It started with squirrels. In the past, I'd thought of squirrels as charming park animals to feed and enjoy. Now, in order to swallow them, I imagined dark chicken. Barbecued raccoon was next. I'd hold my nose and pretend it was corned beef. Possums and armadillos followed. Trying not to retch, I'd think pork. And then there was nutria. Nutria is a rodent. Looks similar to a beaver with two long, orange, menacing front teeth. Tim fixed it as chili. I'd gotten tougher, less likely to gag. I tried to think of nutria as dark turkey meat, but the teeth spooked me and I failed. I'd been a good sport. I could feel, if not taste, the love in Tim's cooking. Better to eat another squirrel. Or perhaps a catfish he caught in the Mississippi River, the ones we ate only occasionally due to the slight taint of river chemicals. In 1978, we moved to the rural acreage of the Ozark Mountains of Arkansas. White-tailed deer roamed all over our property, and Tim's preparation of venison was a vast culinary improvement over swamp meat. As for fish, we now had sweet bass from his pond. Over the following decades, Tim's repertoire grew. From his garden produce, he made side dishes of bok choy and salads of specialty lettuces long before they were available in grocery stores. He inoculated white oak logs with shiitake mushroom spores and harvested the mushrooms when they bloomed. Grilled, they tasted like bacon. He collected berries and made elderberry wine, which he served in crystal wine glasses that he bought at a resale shop. 40 years after that first meal, when visiting San Francisco, he wanted to capture wild yeast from the air. So he set a bowl on the hood of the car and caught rainwater. Later, he mixed the water with instant potato flakes and flour and started a sourdough starter. This morning, he has used the starter to make crepes and filled them with his homegrown raspberries. He lays the crepes before me on my favorite china plate next to a tall vase of his prize zinnias. Our chairs are comfortable. I've been reminiscing about our early days in Baton Rouge and that first meal, I say to him, as I notice a squirrel eating seed at the bird feeder. Tim catches my distraction. He knows the thieving squirrels frustrate me. With an impish grin and a tone of confidence, speaking directly into my eyes, he says, "We could eat that squirrel." I tell myself to show no expression. The slightest look of encouragement, and that squirrel would sizzle in the pan. Still grinning. He gives me a few moments, hopes to incite me. Keep a poker face, I tell myself. My lack of reaction works, and he continues. "I figured I'd make you red beans," he says, looking at me with the same loving eyes he did when we were 19. "You coming from New Orleans and all." I return the look of love and recount the swamp critters I recall eating. "Yes, all that," he says, "plus rats and mice and grasshopper pie." I don't recall eating any insects, nor rats, nor mice. I want to think he's pulling my leg, but I can't be sure. However, I am sure that over the years, I started cooking occasionally, but only because it seems like I should help out. I even make red beans, starting with canned beans. As for onions, I use fancy Egyptian walking onions, the ones Tim cultivated over the years. Every spring, he brings in a fistful, holds his arms up as if holding a trophy, and proclaims, "The onions are up." He sees onions. I see the boy who courted me with his treasure from the ditch. That's my story. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, LeAynne.
You're welcome. You want me to stay on the camera or what?
You can go ahead and,
Close off?
Yeah.
Okay, well.
awesome. Okay, our second reader today is named Nancy Jeter Keith. Nancy grew up in Arkansas, living in Hot Springs, Portsmouth, Camden, and Little Rock. She left the state in her early 20s. In 1982, about 18 years later, she returned to Little Rock with her husband Jack and their two small daughters, Sarah and Shannon. Growing up, Nancy loved hearing and reading stories about her family and ancestors and encouraged her parents and husband in writing the stories of their lives. After the pandemic started in 2020 with more time to fill, she joined the Memoir Writing for Seniors workshop on Zoom and followed the tradition of others in her family, starting to write her life story. Her writing so far includes stories of her time living in Arkansas, New England, Virginia, the Middle East, and travels in the Far East and Europe. The stories are written for her grandchildren and their children, who may be curious about the lives of the people who came before them. Please welcome Nancy Jeter Keith.
The C Squad today. Click the little. We'll restart it, I promise.
Hey, Joe, bring me the mic. This is an old 2020 trick. Yeah, so what she's playing on the screen isn't coming through the speakers. The audio speaker. It's coming through this computer, not. So when you click on that and click play. Wait, bring it back up. And then if you hover on it. There we go. Now click the little play button. It's okay. I can do this. See, it worked earlier. That's what's so weird, right? Yeah, it was coming through. I don't know what's going on. Okay. Okay. Yeah, the other speaker, you could hear it. When she was, yeah. Wonder if it's in the audio player itself. What this is a. It's whatever came on. No, so this is coming from the media player and this is part of it's whatever the computer chose to play. Okay, so I think so wait, this is a recording. Yes. What is this recording? It's saved to the desktop over there. So let's just try that. Okay. It's on the desktop. It is Whitewater. Oh, hey, Joe, Nancy's asking in the, no, Nancy, we're gonna get it to work. Hang on just 1 second. I'm just gonna put the mic down to it and do that way. Sure. That's what's being shared through Zoom. Oh, it is. This here, yes. Yeah, we are sharing device. So that's what's sharing. But let me stop. I'm gonna try that.
Well, yes, you read, she's here.
Okay, yeah, let's have her read. Sorry about that. That's okay. This is a new issue. Now let me make it stop. Sorry, that's okay.
Yes, please. Please unmute and again. So good news, we thought that we would have a recording for our second presenter, but it turns out that she's here virtually.
Shall I start?
Yes, you can go ahead and start. We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. My story is called White Water, and I chose to record it because I have chronic hoarseness. So I'm sorry, but here it is. Fall is in the air, but an uncertain winter lies ahead. Scientists predict a December upsurge of people becoming sick with COVID after families gather for the holidays, ignoring recommendations from pandemic experts to avoid groups. Jack is sitting across the dining table from me, patiently putting together another 300-piece jigsaw puzzle. Puzzles are his escape from the boredom of isolation during this pandemic. The gym where we exercised, the restaurants where we dined are closed to slow down the spread of the virus. Our grandchildren in Little Rock come by and blow kisses from the front porch steps. Our grandchildren in Austin, not in school because of the pandemic, now have time to visit daily on FaceTime. We have been together in isolation from family and friends, day and night for 6 months, and Jack is frustrated. He doesn't understand why we now stay home. That train headed down the track for 6 years since his diagnosis has arrived. I need to escape the harsh realities of today. I want to remember the man he was before the big A, Alzheimer, erased from his brain the memories of our life together. So, with a light heart, let me start at the beginning. In 1971, I was sharing a 3-level house with 4 women on a tree-lined street in a lovely, quiet neighborhood in a suburb of Boston when I met Jack through one of my roommates. Jack, a Yankee, born and raised in Massachusetts, enjoyed organizing snow skiing, winter camping, hiking, and canoeing expeditions in New England. And through him, I had a fling with all these things. He was down to earth, knowledgeable, and meticulous in his planning. But in later years, it was more fun to enhance the stories of our adventures with a slight twist. Sitting around with good friends, sharing drinks, and exchanging stories, voices becoming louder as the evening progressed, I claimed he had brought me to the brink of disaster several times in the years before we married. His first attempt was on a whitewater canoe trip down the Pemigewasset River in New Hampshire with a group of friends and my dog Freckles. We launched our canoes on a glorious sunny day, slightly cool, in early autumn, when emerging splashes of yellow and red mixed into the dark green leaves of late summer. Jack sat in the stern with primary responsibility to control the direction of the canoe. I was in the bow. Freckles, my white and tan English setter, was standing in the middle, braced against the wind, stiff legs, head up, tongue lolling out, the long silky hair on her ears and tail flying. Looking down into the clear, sparkling water, we could see large, smooth rocks and, as we swiftly passed above them. Soon, the passage narrowed and the water became more turbulent, folding up into white-tipped curls. Muffled by the wind, Jack shouted, "Look out, Nancy! Whitewater ahead, away from the rocks. Go right!" I frantically paddled, trying, but failing to support his efforts to steer the canoe away from the white foam, which signified rocks breaking the surface. A shining dark boulder emerged from the foam, and with a sharp, drawn-out scraping sound, pushed the tip of the canoe up out of the water and into the air. The canoe paused, trembled, tilted, and overturned, rolling us into the water. Shocked by the plunge into the cold, swiftly moving water, buoyed up by my life jacket, I emerged from under the water and started looking for Freckles. I was terrified that my dog, a water-loving hunting dog born to swim, was going to drown. We were out of the narrow passage and deeper, calmer, but still rapidly moving water, and during the time I wasted looking for Freckles, she and Jack made it to shore, and I was moving downstream, unable to cut across the currents to shore. I saw Jack in the shallow water by the shore, calmly gathering up the floating waterproof containers, holding our gear and lunch, oblivious to my plight, while Freckles raced back and forth out of the water, furiously wagging her tail. Fortunately, others in the party noticed my predicament. Someone yelled, "Feet first," reminding me to float feet first in rapids to protect your head from hitting the rocks. I flipped onto my back and tried not to think about the waterfall downstream. Surely I would be out of the water by then. Another shout, "Look out, canoe is coming." Sure enough, the upturned canoe was barreling towards me sideways. By some miracle, I rotated from my back to my stomach and slid belly down, up and over the canoe. Finally, friends in another canoe pulled close and pushed me into the calm water by the shore. Safely on shore, in fun, I chided Jack. "Did it not occur to you to make sure I was out of the water before you set up a search and rescue operation for your lunch?" "No," he responded in mock surprise. "It never occurred to me to doubt your ability to manage without my assistance. A not subtle dig at my 1970s style feminism." Soaking wet and chilled, our canoeing for the day ended. In fact, that was my first and only canoe trip in whitewater. Nevertheless, after 10 minutes in the canoe and 10 minutes in the water, I claimed bragging rights to say, "I have gone whitewater canoeing." Thank you, Jack, for giving me the memory of a canoe trip on the Pemmichewasset River in New Hampshire on a glorious sunny day, slightly cool in early autumn. Today, I sit across the table, watching as you silently assemble a jigsaw puzzle piece by piece. The quiet of the morning is broken by the soft click, click, click of the keyboard as I write stories about the life we shared. Sometimes we would glide smoothly in calm water high above the rocks. Sometimes we paddled frantically to avoid rocks breaking the surface. Sometimes we paddled in harmony, and sometimes in opposition. Each word I write is a friend that pushes me out of the swirling water and into the calm water by the shore. My memories, as I write my stories, are the life jacket that buoy me up and away from the churning chaos of the world I must live in today. And that's the end of it.
Test, test, 1, 2. Test, test. Okay.
So it's, we will be able, they will be able to watch that on recording if they can hear it.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Let's go ahead and get to our third reader of the day, third and final. Our third reader today is Georgia Lewis, the fourth child and third daughter. She was born during World War II in East St. Louis, Illinois, where her mother was born and raised. By the time she was 2, she was back in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, her father's hometown, with her 4 siblings living with her grandparents on a small farm. Her grandfather paid special attention to her brother, the middle child, and Georgia, already called Sassy, and shielded them from the abuse her father doled out. She learned early that doing well in school got her the positive attention that she craved. A high school dropout with 3 children, she used her quest for knowledge to earn her first nursing degree. She went on to teach nursing, serve as a nursing administrator, eventually working at the Arkansas State Board of Nursing. As a board member in Louisiana and director of advanced practice nursing in Arkansas, she has served on national committees that have shaped advanced practice nursing. Please welcome Georgia Lewis.
Now, we're gonna have all the technical difficulties today.
Oh, no. Oh, all those months of speech therapy didn't work. Can you hear me now? Okay, if I get too loud. Quite a note, not take it to my therapist. Being a nurse was such a far-fetched idea. This, for me, a high school dropout who married at 16, had her first child at 17, and her third and last at 23. In the fall of 1978, at the age of 35, I found myself teaching clinical nursing at Northeast Louisiana University. And we did have Nutris nearby, mission nurse. I lived with my husband, Marl, and our 3 children there. My earliest memories began in that 2-room tourist court in Dewdrop, next to Pine Bluff, during World War II. This story is of a determined girl's journey from abuse to a career in helping others. I'm going to read just spots, and I'm going to see if I can arrange that I can see. In 1929, at the beginning of the Depression, my mother and father married. Her father's and brother's opposition to the marriage was not strong enough to deter her. Mom was 20 and Dad was 27. And soon after the marriage, they moved to Arkansas for the first time. In the early years of the Depression and their marriage, he so badly failed in his attempts to make a living in Arkansas that at one time, he and Mom rode on an undercarriage, and this is the bottom of a boxcar on the Cotton Belt Railroad back to East St. Louis. In 1943, when my oldest sister was 8 and I was a baby, Daddy moved us all to Pine Bluff permanently. We moved back and forth quite a few times during those years. He would often go to Pine Bluff alone, go to St. Louis alone for work. His parents had rented a farm close to the one they once had owned. Tall and slender, Grandma developed high blood pressure. Mom claimed her blood pressure was eating too much of the pork that she loved. Losing her home and having an alcoholic son and a sedentary daughter who couldn't grow, can, or cook the vegetables that they grew. It could have been also factors in her hypertension. Also, having a house full of grandkids she did not seem to care for could have contributed to the strokes that eventually claimed her life. Riding a streetcar to school, walking home with friends, lingering at the corner store to buy hot dogs and catching all the latest movies and plays did not prepare Mom for the harsh life on a dirt farm in South Arkansas. Throughout my childhood, Mom talked to us about her life growing up. Her family had sent out their laundry until they bought one of the first electric washing machines. except for the few times that went to the laundromat, which was the size of half a basketball court, filled with wringer washers and square tubs. Mom did our laundry by hand. She used a washboard and a galvanized tub of Tide bubbles and run her clothes by hand. The strong detergent caused the webbing between her fingers to stay raw and keep his poor chops. From watching Mom, I learned it took grit and determination to survive. My mom took 10 steps back in time from what she'd grown up with and made it work, taking her hardship in stride and rarely complaining. She found time to enjoy life with the friends she so easily made, from the grocer to neighbors to the parents of her kids' friends. Dad always claimed the Rosses, my mother's name, were a bad influence on us and wanted his kids far away from East St. Louis. Against the marriage from the start, Mom's 5 brothers did indeed offer over the years to help her leave Daddy. It took 9 births, 33 years of abuse, and the last child leaving home for her to make the step. Except for Mom and Mary, the second daughter, everyone in the family had nicknames, often earned in some offhand way, some staying with us our entire lives. Daddy was called Slim by everyone, because he was tall and very thin. Peggy, his legal name was Joanne Caroline, got her nickname for being Chris and Margaret in the Catholic Church. She was the only one of us to go to Catholic school or church. Joanne Caroline never appeared on the report card, and she legally changed her name to Peggy adulthood. My brother Doc's name came from Mary Lady, trying to call him Doggy, the only reference she had for something that small. Doc stuck, and we still call him Doc at 84. Mom said the nickname Sassy came from the landlady of the boarding house in St. Louis, where we lived while Mom awaited the birth of Nancy, the last girl. So I must have been 2 at the time. The landlady said I was fat and sassy. Oh, only the sassy part of the name stuck. The youngest, Jitterbug, got her moniker from the popular World War II dance when she was a toddler. In June 1953, 3 years after we moved to Dollarway, all of y'all know where Dollarway is. It's a good place to be from. I grew up across from the school. 3 years after we moved to Dollarway, Grandma Ross died. I was 10 and far too old to pass the 5, which would give me a free pass on the train to East St. Louis. We couldn't afford the higher fare, so I wasn't going to East St. Louis for the funeral. Not that I wanted to anyway. The feeling of shame from Grandma Ross scolding me washed over me every time I thought of her. I could not understand why Mom was upset about her dying. And we went to stay with Grandpa during that time. And as I came into the sweltering house from play one afternoon, Grandpa said, "Sassy, you're going to make some dumplings for this here rabbit." He had been simmering something for hours on the back of the stove, ever so often. Ever so often. He had been simmering. Is it working? Yeah. Okay. He had been simmering something for hours on the back of the stove. Ever so often, he moved the pot, lifted the round plate-sized cover under it. Can everybody hear me? Yes. Yeah. And grandpa turned it into my face. I need to keep all my kids for eggs. It's undercover chickens, bucket in the yard, started gray and white. Dark gray with the breast sheet, light white, each week, special. The grand roosters for the land through the yard. Put the fowl. Stepping back closer to the door, a possible mistake. I said, I don't know. I've never put anything. And I hadn't. Mom did all of it. I was hungry, I ate larger, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes I ate raw Irish potato, that's what salt. Mom always said, if we're hungry, we didn't know for what, a raw potato, satisfy your craving. The potato might be the only thing accessible that didn't require 5 minutes, so it was well used. I'll tell you what to do, Grandpa said, and proceeded to do each step. As I picked out the flower, I noticed little white specks. The lighting from the coal lamps, that little house was dim, but I did see little specks. And as I watched them, I moved. Grandpa, I yelled, there are bugs in this flower. Grandpa peered over into the fire and squinted his 8-year-old eyes. There ain't no bugs. I looked at my brother for help. He was sitting at the table, just watching, thinking of her grandpa a lot more. And maybe I looked, he looked the same. He shrugged his shoulders and put down his hands and looked aside. There's no use arguing. After a few more feeble lines, I shushed and proceeded to make a bed. That's a director. Doc and I did. I looked. During this visit, we were waiting long before daybreak. New experience. I had ridden by the city's body, same people, male and female, old and young, bent over with storm, cut real fiber from a bush drink plant. I knew they made me doing it. I planned to make my fortune. We got ready by Grandpa boiled the salt. That pork with 1 thing red brown strip of blade, pressed with salt to preserve it and make it powerful. After rendering it of the salt, it passed a translucent, shrunken strip to a pot skillet to spatter the water away before we got that crispy, bright black and strip. The aroma of the fire didn't have to say, pray on me, which he did every morning. After breakfast and Grandpa shaved, starting to cry, and they took us and the black to the water. To fill the cup. We did earn my own money. We earned my own money. I asked Grandpa, how much money can I make today? Grandpa said, a strong person pick 100 pounds and get it. How do I know when I get that much? Grandpa said, you see those long sacks over there? And they're full, will be 100 pounds. Get the short sack, but I don't know how much they were. He never said how much money I paid to get the full sack. And I was the uncle son of the big cash. When the wagon stopped, we called out in the open field, like I did drink, stretched to the leg. We weren't picking the cotton with chops and so on. But I thought I'd get short earlier this spring. Grandpa taught me how to chop cotton in the rows of men. And that day, Doc was halfway down the road. Hold the hole for that old friend, Grandpa said, and let the bird be able to chop the weeds. Is this right? I asked as I said that I would be the same, so he said it would be just blow the soul. So many times I've heard anything more good for good well. Grandpa further instructed me saying, even if there ain't for a week, push the dirt in, but be careful that it doesn't help with the stall. The green shoots were about a foot tall and rose about 3 or 4 feet apart. We work inside once for a while. Grandpa and I worked from time to time. The work was monotonous and too quiet for me. I soon burst forth for snooze. Dad got fired. I said, I wanted to talk about it, but Grandpa and I did work for home. Almost a month later, Grandpa came after us and sputtering green truck was to take its last run. We got Grandpa's farm and looked at me. I once white dress with gray as a towel and the other one would have been out. Was she ever into the grind? Don't have the passing years of racing memories of that poor someone. I felt the sense of agency. I was a contributing member of a 100,000 society. Grandpa worked. Famous living, took care of his name, he was unpretty and lived off the land. I cooked, picked apple plants, but they were clothes everywhere, and did chores like Grandpa and Doc. I saw where I lived in the trees, plants, and land. I was more than a listening book. I could see where I could everything like challenging work and close attention to them. Both framing and I felt that. I pulled my weight for my estimation. Grandpa believed it. Never had a girl who cared like that, except for all allowing to cry alone. Although he never voiced it or ever touched on his shoulder, I knew well he accepted the part I belong. The strong and deep bond formed was the foundation of my deep relationships and all. Love and trust and everything easy. That's something with Grandpa.
Thank you, Georgia. All right. That was our pre-readings for today. If you would like more information about the Pell's Writing Circle program, please send me an email, jjobe@pels.org. And in closing, I would like to say thank you so much for joining us today for Legacies Lunch. If you would like to support programs like this, please donate to support the Butler Center programming at robertslibrary.org. Join us here at UA Little Rock Downtown next month, Wednesday, September 3rd, from 12 to 1, with the celebrating 150 years Joseph Carter Corbin at the University of Arkansas at Time, with Dr. Gladys Turney-Finney in conversation with Dr. Kimberly Davis. And I would also like to say it's been a pleasure working with these 3 women and many others in the writing program circle, and if you'd like to buy a copy of George's book, she has published it on Amazon, and she's got a few copies here that we could sell in the main lobby just across the way. So we look forward to seeing you next month, and thank you for joining. If we want to do a Q&A, we can. Does anyone have any questions?
You can also save it for Zoom watchers to put their questions in the chat.
Okay. Oh, maybe you have to be like right up on it. Does anyone here have any questions, or anyone in the chat? Go ahead and drop it in the chat on Zoom.
Nothing in the chat other than just some very pleasant compliments for all of our storytellers.
So thank you all so much for being here today. I don't have the time, it's on my phone, but if that's it, that's it. Thank you all so much.